Howell Mill Road is a 5-mile long road connecting Marietta Street to the south and Northside Drive to the north. The street is named after Judge Clark Howell, a notable Atlanta businessman, judge, and legislator in the 19th century. Here, between Huff Road and 10th Street, Howell Mill was used as an area of industry. Its location, just east of the Howell Interlocking Historic District, is where 4 major railroad lines link up, splitting off to 5 points: Armour Yard, Howell Yard, and Inman Yard. Historic industrial buildings here include the White Provisions Company, Star Provision Company, the Ironworks Building, and many, many more.
Standing behind me right now is what used to be the White Provisions Company. The building was constructed in 1910 by Heinzen and Merton Architects, a Chicago-based firm. It was opened on March 3rd, 2010. In attendance and giving speeches were then Mayor Robert Maddox, H.G. Candler, as well as Mr. White himself, William H. White Jr. The company grew and eventually had over 350 employees, and throughout the 20s, the company did very well financially in providing meat products to the Atlanta market and the southern market in general. It was one of the very first large-scale meat processing facilities in the South in order to avoid the very high tariffs and prices from meat from out west. It grew and eventually had over 350 employees. Offices were added to the southern side of the building and can now be seen from Howell Mill itself. And in the 1920s, Mr. White actually left the company and handed control over to Asa G. Candler Jr., the son of Coca-Cola magnate Asa G. Candler, before selling out to the national company Swift & Co., the nation's leader in meat packing and distribution. The building was purchased in 1963 by the Beasley Company for $250,000 or $2.5 million in 2023 dollars, and was gutted to make room for warehouse storage. It was later bought by Bill Smith in 1991 for the sum of $950,000 or $2.1 million in 2023. While originally it was intended as use as a U-Haul storage area, about half of the complex became dedicated to DIY loft space, where tenants could come, purchase a loft, and then fix it themselves. With this, the building became more in line with its modern-day usage. In the mid-90s, tragedy struck the building when, after purchasing a storage unit at a foreclosure sale, Mr. Joe Lee found the body of a dead 2-year-old in one of the cardboard boxes that he had acquired during the foreclosure sale. After reporting it to the police, an investigation ensued where the girl's parents, Gregory and Sharon Henderson, were found responsible for her death. The ensuing court battle found her father, Gregory Henderson, responsible, and he was jailed for 18 years. Nowadays, the building serves as a mixed-use development. The ground level serves as a showroom for the Minneapolis-based Room and Board, Home Furnishings, which can be seen right behind me, and the top levels are currently lofts for private individuals to purchase or rent out. The going price for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom loft right now is currently anywhere from $1,800 to $2,700.
While it's hard to imagine, the area which now houses MARTA's Brady Avenue bus facility used to be an automotive racetrack. In 1949, a man by the name of Roy Shoemaker had a quarter-mile dirt racetrack built just behind the White Provision Company. While initially racing only midget cars, over the next 21 years, stock cars, modifieds, and jalopies would all run the circuit. The property was sold to MARTA in 1970 and afterward became a bus maintenance facility. Just a couple blocks down the street sits the Westside Ironworks Shopping Mall. This structure was built sometime before 1932 and was used as a welding workshop. Local sources say the Poss family has been using the building for 3 generations. In 1955, the ironworks were featured in the news when Horace G. Poss purchased 18-ton steam locomotive number 249 from the Pullman Company for his enjoyment and to, quote, paint it green and let inquisitive children inspect it. He would later put the little 040 saddle tank engine out on display in front of the ironworks. Although the engine is no longer there, it does still live on. By saving it from scrap, the engine has been able to live a long life at the Roosevelt Railroad Museum in Griffin, Georgia. As of March 2023, the engine is still intact and sitting outside in the elements, slowly rusting away. More recently, the ironworks were owned by Angelo Viale, an Italian-American with a passion for ironworking. Arriving in America in 1994, Viale became well known for his ironwork projects in schools, churches, and country clubs. In 1997, Ironworks International, Inc. purchased the Ironworks building and established it as their main forgery and store. Later, in October of 2013, the ironworks would be sold to its current owners, Westside Ironworks LLC, for the sum of $4 million. The building is now home to Dixon Rye, Maple Street Biscuit Company, OKU, and more.
Behind me here is the building that currently houses Northside Tavern. Originally, the building was constructed in 1948 and was housed to a grocer, gas station, and eventually, by 1948, a cafe called Chester's Cafe. It had opened and eventually evolved into a blue-collar bar. At the time, the neighborhood consisted mostly of small dwellings and industrial buildings, and in the following decades, the bar would go by various different names, such as Paul's Place, Fulton Grill, and My Cousins. In 1975, the Webb family came into ownership of the tavern, with Mr. Butler Webb as its patriarch. When he died in 1989, his daughter, Ellen Webb, took over the tavern. The bar had a seedy reputation, and it received the dubious honor of being the site of the first homicide in Atlanta in 1981 after the stabbing of William Blackburn. By 1994, the tavern had established itself as the predominant blues bars in Atlanta thanks to performances such by musicians like Mudcat, Donnie McCormack, and Carlos Capote. These blues musicians helped bring in famous artists such as blues celebrity Frank Edwards and also Pink. In 2010, the bar, due to financial problems caused by the Great Recession, was put up for sale, but eventually was saved. Now, in the year 2023, it is one of the very few original structures in the neighborhood and continues to serve as the predominant blues bar in Atlanta today. Behind me here is what is now a Lifeline Animal Project, but for decades and decades, it housed the Atlanta Humane Society. Originally, the society was founded in the year 1873 as the Atlanta Humane Society and Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Incorporated, and it made its home at the corner of Howell Mill and 10th Street back in the year 1929. Originally, it was a crude structure. The building was overhauled in 1961 to include more facilities for the help of animals, including an operating room, recovery room, cattery, isolation ward, x-ray equipment, and brand new ambulances specifically designed to transport animals from people's homes directly to the Humane Society. The society would work on housing homeless animals and keeping them off the streets and being shot by county officers, as was the way to dispose of stray dogs back in the day. A free spay and neuter clinic would also be opened in that decade in order to curb the population of feral dogs and cats in the city of Atlanta. It used the location as primary headquarters until recently last year. It has now moved to Perry Boulevard off of Marietta Road, about a mile or so down the street.
The upper artery area of Howell Mill has seen a slew of changes since the turn of the century. What used to be factories, industry, meat processing, pig pens, and ironworks is now some of the most sought-after real estate in the city. With the expansion of the Beltline come through the interlock yards, limited real estate in East Midtown, and the demand for industrial chic and new upscale developments, the neighborhood was perfect for gentrification. Where small, single-family homes and filling stations used to be, now giant skyscrapers and live-work-play communities dominate. Thankfully, not all is lost. The rail yards are still just as active as they were 100 years ago, and familiar haunts like Northside Tavern still give the neighborhood the grimy feel that the modern yuppie yearns for. How the area will develop in the coming years is yet to be seen, but for the neighborhood, it looks like the march of progress will continue.